Hi, I'm Dr. Eugene O'Loughlin and welcome to my series of lessons on problem-solving techniques. In this lesson, we're going to learn about pest analysis. So at the end of this lesson, we should be able to do the following. We first of all want to define what is meant by pest analysis, and within this we're going to consider political factors, look at and examine economic factors. We're also going to consider social and cultural influences, and finally examine technological competitive advantage. So pest analysis is in part 3 of our curriculum, decision making, and within this group of lessons here, we can see we have 4 problem solving techniques, and pest analysis is the second of these techniques. So as always at the beginning of our lessons, let's take a look at an inspirational quote. This one comes from Wilfred Peterson, an American writer. He once wrote that the decision is the spark that ignites action. Until a decision is made, nothing happens. Decision is the courageous facing of issues, knowing that if they are not faced, problems will remain forever unanswered. So Peterson is saying that decision making is not that easy, and we need some structure in to help us make decisions, and pest analysis is just one of those techniques. So let's go ahead and take a look. So straight away, what is pest analysis? Well, the P in pest analysis stands for political, so we want to consider political factors. The E stands for economic, and we want to look at or examine economic factors. The S stands for social. We also put in cultural influences there, so social and cultural influences. And finally, the T stands for technological, and we want to consider technological competitive advantage. Pest analysis is most often associated with marketing, not exclusively, but it is a common tool for marketing endeavours. So pest analysis then, let's take a look at a little bit deeper at what we mean by pest analysis compared to other tools. It's very important that your organization considers its environment before beginning something like a marketing process. The environmental analysis should be continuous and feed all aspects of planning. And your marketing environment is made up of 3 areas. The first one is the internal environment, and this is your staff, your internal customers, things like your technology in your office, your wages, your finance, and so on. In the middle, we have the micro environment, and these are our external customers, people like agents and distributors, our suppliers, our competitors, and so on. And then the important one for us here is the macro environment, where we want to consider the pest factors: political, economic, social, and technological. So we do use our pest analysis to examine the macro environment, and you would use something like SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to examine the internal and micro environments. So we want to consider the pest analysis here. So when do we use a pest analysis? Well, we use it when we're considering any of the following options. There are many, many ways, but these are the principal ones for the moment. Entering a new market, launching a new product or service. If we are considering something like a potential merger or acquisition, or going into partnership with another organization, or in examining an investment opportunity, what we want to be able to do is to take the 4 pest factors that examine our macro environment into consideration. So that's political, economic, social, and technological. So when we're considering political factors, what are the types of things that we're looking at? Now, there are many, many political factors, and I'm just listing some of them here. So what about employment laws? Employment laws here in Ireland, where I live, will be different from other countries. Environmental regulations are quite severe here. There are good green policies being used, but may not be the same in other countries. Tax policies are definitely different from country to country and region to region. And also in tax policies, you're not just considering things like corporation tax and income tax, but what about local taxes and local fees that need to be paid? Are there trading agreements between blocks? What about the stability of a government? Product labelling requirements will be different from location to location. Just consider, for example, labelling requirements on items like sugar and alcohol. Health and safety regulations will be different from location to location. Are there funding available if you're considering launching a product in a new country, for example? Are there grants available for investment? And also, what about the marketing lobbying groups and other pressure groups? You need to consider those as well. So there are other political factors, but these are the headline ones that you should be aware of. What economic factors should we be considering in this type of analysis? Well, obvious ones like interest rates and exchange rates and rates of inflation, of course. But what about employment levels, or GDP, the gross domestic product, often measured with other measures? Consumer spending power, Trade tariffs, don't forget trade tariffs might add on a lot into your, if you're exporting something. And even things like seasonal issues, for example, the weather. When we consider the S, the social and cultural factors, these can quite often be forgotten or left out. But as you can see from the list here, there are many, many factors that you should consider. So what about things like ethnic and religion issues or attitudes to foreign products and services? Even the language, not everybody is going to be able to speak your language. Consumer leisure time, the differing roles of men and women. What about demographics such as age and gender and race and family size and things like living standards and education standards? And there are other social and cultural items as well. But once again, these are the headline ones that you should consider. And then finally, what about the technological factors? Some of these might be very, very obvious, but again, these need to be considered if you're looking for a competitive advantage. So what's the technology legislation? It's quite a hot topic. I'm recording this video in May 2022, and it is an important topic right around the world now about legislation for technology and data protection in particular. Access to the internet and broadband availability is not the same everywhere you go. What about computer usage and availability in the home? We're just coming out of the COVID pandemic as I record this, and so a lot of people are working from home. Quality and standard of technology is going to be variable. Communications infrastructure, that might have to be provided by governments. Rate of technological change, how fast is it, how slow is it? And are there opportunities presented by outsourcing? So there are the 4 PEST factors. Where do we get this information? Well, there's loads and loads of information, and the internet is our good friend here. One of my favourite sources of information is the Central Statistics Office here in Ireland. And when you think about it, there's probably an equivalent type of office available in almost all countries in the world. There are loads and loads of sources of information from, for example, in the European Union, there's EU-STAT, which provides information about all the PEST factors for all the countries in the European Union. Or you may just need to go to your local library. There are plenty of sources of information available, and these will vary from person to person. Now let's take a quick look at the example. At the headline PEST factors considered by, in this example for the retail industry, which was conducted by the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, UK-based organisation, and they did this study in 2021. And some of the things they considered, for example, on the left, starting with P, the political factors were things like government and political stability and industry regulations and global trade agreements and so on. The economic factors they considered were things like exchange rates, growth decline, inflation, cost of living, and labour costs. Social and cultural things that they considered for the retail industry. Well, what are the consumer trends and fashions and consumer habits that we need to consider? Are there lifestyle or career attitudes that we need to be aware of? What about work-life balance? It's going to be different from location to location, and the demographics in the particular areas. And finally then, in this retail study, the CIPD considered things like automation and innovation, disruptive technologies, what are they? Robotics, AI, and security. So these were the headline things that they offered up for anybody in the retail industry looking to help make a decision. So in our assignment, I'm going to get you to conduct a PEST analysis for a fictitious soft drinks company who are beginning on a marketing campaign. And I'm going to give you 3 countries here, New Zealand, Croatia, and Costa Rica, countries of similar size populations. You can choose your own countries, or 3 different areas, or 4 countries, or 5 countries, whatever you want to do. And the example I'm going to ask you to consider here is that this fictitious company is going to launch a new brand of flavoured water aimed at young and sporty and health-conscious people. And they want to consider a pilot release in a particular country. And they've chosen these 3 countries, and your task is to conduct a PEST analysis on these 3 countries to help the soft drinks company make a decision as to which of these 3 countries it will consider for the pilot release. So in summary, PEST analysis considers 4 factors: political, economic, social, and technological. As we say, it's most commonly associated with marketing, but not exclusively so. And it's important that your organisation considers using PEST analysis, its macro environment, before the beginning of the marketing process. It may sound obvious that you would consider all of these things, but PEST analysis puts some structure on the decision making. So that's how PEST analysis can be used as a problem-solving technique. I hope you found this lesson useful.